You see, the beauty of professional wrestling is that there's a little bit of something for everybody. It gives fans an opportunity to see themselves in their favorite stars. And I'm sure if you're anything like me, you can recall which were the wrestlers that got you invested in this crazy world of professional wrestling. What's going on, pro wrestling fans? My name is Jose Ramos Jr. and join me on this week's 5 Count as I share my 5 favorite wrestlers of all time. But before we begin the list, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to stay up to date with all the pro wrestling content that is produced on this channel. And with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. At number 5, I have The Rock. You see, as a young fan, I can remember watching WWE SmackDown on Thursdays when it was on UPN, and The Rock was always someone that just captivated audiences. And I can remember being a small child and being mesmerized by the mic work, by the personality, the charisma that The Rock had every single time the camera was pointed in his direction. Not only was he fantastic in terms of his delivery of his lines, but just the athleticism and his ability to connect with the crowd on so many levels is what inspired me to be a fan of professional wrestling. I can remember growing up a young fan and seeing how The Rock portrayed himself and the confidence that he carried, and it really motivated me to up my game in terms of confidence. Not to mention his classic storylines with guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan, and Brock Lesnar in 2002, just to name a few. But obviously that was only a small piece of his career. I was far too young to see his Nation of Domination years as well as the Corporation. But I can remember in 2011 when he made his return to the WWE and the hype and anticipation that arrived with it as he feuded with John Cena. From there, we would see him have matches against CM Punk. We saw him do battles with guys like John Cena, as well as his recent storyline with the Bloodline and Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. The Rock, for all intents and purposes, has transcended professional wrestling and even entered into Hollywood. I think there's an argument that can be made that The Rock has reached a level that has superseded his career in the WWE, but because of his confidence, because of the charisma that he brought every single time he entered the arena, The Rock for sure is at number 5. At number 4, I have The Undertaker. You see, The Undertaker was such a huge part of my upbringing because of his dominant run on Friday Night SmackDown. You see, I grew up in a time when it was the Ruthless Aggression era. He had feuds against the likes of Randy Orton and Edge. I can remember going back in time, seeing that 2005 feud with Randy Orton and the presentation of The Undertaker. Not only was he presented as a dominant force, but that supernatural element that could not be found on any other gimmick. I think it's safe to say that The Undertaker is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. He maintains probably the greatest wrestling gimmick of all time. And when you talk about the wrestling ability that he had towards the latter years of his career, from the 90s and early 2000s, The Undertaker presence was felt throughout the arena, throughout the world rather. But when it came to his wrestling ability, it was around that time in 2006, after his match against Kurt Angle at No Way Out, that he began to up his game. From there, we would see classic matches against the likes of Shawn Michaels, Batista, Edge, Triple H, just to name a few. And whenever the name The Undertaker is uttered, there are fans and non-fans of professional wrestling who immediately have memories come to mind. The amount of respect and dedication associated to Mark Calaway, The Undertaker, cannot be overstated. I think it's safe to say, when it comes to a top 5 list, The Undertaker is more times than not going to be on it. I think The Undertaker is certainly one of the greatest of all times, and his legacy is just a testament of that. At number 3, I have Eddie Guerrero as my number 3 favorite wrestler of all time. By no means is that a detriment to his status as a legacy or as one of the greatest of all time, but when in comparison to the other two, and we'll get to them. But Eddie Guerrero is a great representation of the culture of the Hispanic community. Not only did he represent our culture in a fitting and entertaining way, but just the way he went about it on TV. You look at Eddie Guerrero, the character. As a heel, he was one of the more entertaining heels that they had. As a babyface, he was one of the more beloved faces the company had. His in-ring ability, his charisma, his chemistry with guys like Rey Mysterio, Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, just to name a few. Eddie Guerrero solidified his legacy when he won that WWE title in 2004. I can remember at a young age following him and Rey Mysterio, and those two were my guys. I mean, I can remember one of my earliest memories as a wrestling fan was one of their matches during 2004. I remember hearing the news about Eddie Guerrero's passing, and that was really one of the first instances that it hit me, that it dawned that professional wrestling was this level of entertainment. It was scripted. It wasn't 100% reality as we all thought it was growing up. And I remember the devastating news hearing that I would no longer be able to see Eddie Guerrero on the TV, and it's still something that resonates with not only me, but fans all across the world. Eddie Guerrero, I think, has all the tools to be regarded as one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. Entertaining on the microphone, fantastic in the ring, has the charisma to last years. And to this day, his legacy still lives on, as we see guys like Dominic Mysterio reference his time in that storyline in 2005 for the custody of Dominic. Eddie Guerrero surely is a representation of one of the best times in professional wrestling, and I feel like the way he went about his career and the legacy that he's left behind, it provides the blueprint as to what a great wrestler could be. At number 2, I have CM Punk. CM Punk, I think, is one of the more notorious names of professional wrestling, for better or for worse. But for me, it all started August 1st, 2006. I was watching what was then known as WWE CW, not really fondly remembered upon by wrestling fans, but I remember the anticipation that there was with a new hire within the WWE. He went by the name of CM Punk. I can remember seeing his backstage promos where he talked about not drinking, not smoking, not doing drugs, and that his addiction was professional wrestling. Accompanied with a bunch of tattoos and a theme song that was used from the Judgment Day pay-per-view in 2006, which I was fortunate enough to attend. All these contributing factors help attract me to this character. And then you get to the in-ring action. He blended styles between guys like a Bret Hart, like a Shawn Michaels, while also having a personality of his own. He was obviously not afraid to share his opinions and to stick up for what he believed in. CM Punk is a notorious figure in professional wrestling. You either love the guy or you hate the guy. And I've come to know that CM Punk, I think, is one of the greatest of all time. Again, probably one of the best on the microphone of this generation. His performance in the ring alone has given fans so much, countless memories, whether it was his feud with Jeff Hardy, John Cena, the Straight Edge Society run. CM Punk, I think, defines an era of professional wrestling, and I think time will only look fondly back at his time in professional wrestling because of his level of influence that he has on the younger audience, whether it's fans or like the wrestlers in NXT, girls like Roxanne Perez, Cora Jade, just to name a couple. CM Punk, I think, will go down in the history books as one of the greatest of all time, along with guys like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, like I mentioned. And at number 1, if you're new to this channel, this might be news to you, but if you're not, you already know number 1, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. Just in every sense of the word, of a professional wrestler, Shawn Michaels embodied that for me. I remember growing up, again, mid-2000s, and Shawn Michaels was my guy because of the level of charisma, the confidence that he had in the ring, but also it was the fact that he was able to sell like no one else on the roster. He got me invested in so many matches just based off of his physical appearance, based off of his facial expressions, the way he was able to bring you in to that moment and have you want to cheer for him. I look at this performance in the 2003 Survivor Series matchup where it was a 3-on-1 advantage for the opposition, and Shawn Michaels gave you that sense of hope. He allowed you to think that he had a shot when you knew the odds were against him. Shawn Michaels having the greatness in ring psychology as well. Not to mention that he's gone, another figure like CM Punk has gone as one of the more notorious figures in professional wrestling. But his resume speaks for itself. A multi-time world champion, intercontinental champion, tag champion, Royal Rumble winner. He was the first ever Grand Slam in WWE, and having match of the years, get ready, match of the years with people like Razor Ramon, Bret Hart, The Undertaker, Chris Jericho, Kurt Angle, John Cena, and that's just to name a few. He's had so many matches that have topped one after the next. He has earned the nicknames the showstopper, the headliner, the main event, the icon. Shawn Michaels, for me, will always be the greatest of all time. He's my Michael Jordan. It'll be very difficult to take him off of this #1 list. If anyone's close, it's CM Punk, but Shawn Michaels, by far, my favorite professional wrestler of all time. And those are my 5 favorite professional wrestlers of all time. If you enjoyed this week's 5 count, please give the video a thumbs up. Comment down below who are some of your favorite professional wrestlers of all time. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel to keep up to date with all these kind of videos that I produce on a weekly basis. Of course, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you next time.